Chapter 3. After the movie was over, it suddenly came to us that Cherry and Marcia didn't have a way to get home. Two-Bit gallantly offered to walk them home. The west side of the town was only about 20 miles away, but they wanted to call their parents and have them come get them. Two-Bit finally talked them into letting us drive them home in his car. I think they were still half scared of us. They were getting over it, though, and as if we walked to Two-Bit's house to pick up the car, it seemed funny to me that Socias, if these girls were an example, were just like us. They liked the Beatles and thought Elvis Presley was out. And we thought the Beatles were rank and that Elvis was tough. But that seemed the only difference to me. Of course, Greasy Girls would have acted a lot tougher, but that was the basic sameness. I thought maybe it was the money that separated us. No, Sherry said slowly when I said this. It's not the money. Part of it is, but not all. You greasers have different set of values. You're more emotional. We're sophisticated, cool to the point of not feeling anything. Nothing is real with us. Sometimes I'll catch myself talking to a girlfriend and realize I don't mean half of what I'm saying. I don't really think a beer blast is on the river is super cool, but I'll rave about one to a girlfriend just to be saying something. She smiled at me. I never told anyone that. I think you're the first person I've ever really gotten through to. She was coming through to me all right, probably because I was a greaser and younger. She didn't have to keep her guard up with me. Rat race is the perfect name for it, she said. We're always going and going and going. We're never asking where. Did you ever have did you ever hear of having more than you wanted so that you couldn't want anything else when you started looking for something else you wanted? It seems like we're always searching for something to satisfy us and never finding it. Maybe if we could lose our cool, we could. That was the truth. Socias were always behind a wall of aloofness, careful not to let their real selves show through. I had seen the social club rumble once. The socias even fought coolly and practically and impersonally. That's where we're separated, she said. It's not money, it's feeling. It's not feeling anything. We feel too violently. And she was trying to hide a smile. That's probably why we take turns getting our names in the paper. Two-Bit and Marcia weren't even listening to us. They were engaged in some wild conversation that made no sense to anyone but themselves. I have quite a rep for being quiet, almost as quiet as Johnny. Two-Bit always said he wondered why Johnny and I were such good buddies. You must make such interesting conversation, he said, cocking one eyebrow. You keep your mouth shut and Johnny not saying anything. But Johnny and I understood each other without saying anything. Nobody but Soda could really get me talking till I met Sherry Valance. I don't know why I could talk to her. Maybe for the same reason she could talk to me. First thing I knew, I was telling her about Mickey Mouse Soda's horse and never told anyone about Soda's horse. It was personal. Soda had a bucking horse, only it wasn't his. It belonged to a guy who kept it at the stables where Soda used to work. Mickey Mouse was Soda's horse, though. The first day Soda saw him, he said, "There's my horse," and I never doubted it. I was about 10 then. Soda Pop was horse crazy. I mean, he's always hanging around stables and rodeos, hopping on a horse every time he gets a chance. When I was 10, I thought that Mickey Mouse was so and Soda looked alike, and they were alike. Mickey Mouse was a dark gold buckskin, sassy and ornery, not much more than a colt. He'd come when Soda called him. He wouldn't come for anyone else. That horse loved Soda. He'd stand there and chew on Soda's sleeve or collar. Gosh, but Soda Pop was crazy about that horse. He went down to see him every day. Mickey Mouse was a mean horse. He would kick other horses and always get into trouble. You've got an ornery pony, Soda tell me. I've got an ornery pony, Sony tell me, rubbing his neck. How come you're so mean, Mickey Mouse? Mickey Mouse would just chew on the sleeve of sometimes nip him, but not hard. He may have belonged to another guy, but he was Soda's horse. Does Soda still have him? Cherry said. He got sold, I said. They came and got him one day and took off with him. Took him off. He was a real valuable horse, pure quarter. She didn't say anything else, and I was glad. I could tell her that Soda had bawled all night long after they came to get and got Mickey Mouse. I cried too, if you want to know the truth, because Soda never really wanted anything except a horse, and he lost his. Soda had been 12 then, going on 13. He never let on to mom and dad how he felt, though, because we never had enough money, and usually we had a hard time making ends meet. When you're 13 in our neighborhood, you know this score. I kept saving my money for a year, thinking that someday I could buy Mickey Mouse back for Soda. You're not so smart at 10. You read a lot, don't you, Pony Boy? Cherry said. I was startled. Yeah, why? She kind of shrugged. I could just tell. I bet you watch sunsets too. She was quiet for a minute, then I nodded. I used to watch them too before I got so busy. I pictured that, or I tried to. Maybe Cherry stood still and watched the sunset while she was supposed to be taking out the garbage. Stood there and watched and forgot everything else until her big brother screamed at her to hurry up. I shook my head. It seemed funny to me that sunset she saw from her patio was the same one I saw from the back steps was the same one. Maybe the two different worlds we lived in weren't so different. We saw the same sunset. Marcia suddenly gasped. Sherry, look who's coming. We all looked and saw a blue Mustang coming down the street. Johnny made a small noise in his throat, and when I looked at him, he was white. Marcia was shifting nervously. What are we going to do? Cherry bit a fingernail. Stand there, she said. There isn't much else we can do. Who is it? Two-Bit asked. The FBI? No, Cherry said bleakly. It's Randy and Bob. And? Two-Bit asked grimly. A few others were a few others of the socially elite colored checkered shirt set. Your boyfriends, Johnny said. His voice was steady, but standing as close to him as I was, I could see that he was trembling. I wondered why. Johnny was a nervous wreck, but he never was that jumpy. Cherry started walking down the street. Maybe they won't see us. Act normal. Who's acting? Two-Bit grinned. I'm a natural normal. Wish I was the other way around, I muttered, and Two-Bit said, Don't get mouthy, Pony Boy. The Mustang passed us slowly and went right by. Marcia sighed in relief. That was close. Cherry turned to me. Tell me about your oldest brother. You don't talk much about him. I tried to think of something to say about Derry and shrugged. What's there to talk about? He's big and handsome and he likes to play football. I mean, what's he like? I feel like I know Soda from the way you talk about him. Tell me about Derry. And when I was silent, she urged me on. Is he wild and reckless like Soda, dreamy like you? My face got hot and I bit my lip. Derry was Derry like. I started to say he's a good old guy, but I couldn't. I burst out bitterly. He's not like Soda Pop at all, and I sure ain't like me. He's hard as a rock and about as human. He's got eyes exactly like frozen ice. He thinks I'm a pain in the neck. He likes soda. Everybody likes soda. But he can't stand me. I bet he wishes he could stick me in a home somewhere and he'd do it too if soda let him. Two-Bit and Johnny were staring at me. No, Two-Bit said dumbfoundedly. No, Ponyboy, that ain't right. You got it wrong. Gee, Johnny said softly, I thought you and Derry and Soda got along well, really well. Well, we don't, I snapped, feeling silly. I knew my ears were red and by the way they were burning, and I was thankful for the darkness. I felt stupid. Compared to Johnny's home, mine was heaven. At least Derry didn't get drunk and beat me up or run me out of the house, and I had Soda Pop to talk things over with. That made me mad. I mean, making a fool of myself in front of everybody. And you can't shut your trap, Johnny Cade, because we all know you ain't wanted at home either, and you can't blame him. Johnny's eyes went round as he winced as though I'd belted him. Two-Bit slapped me a good one across the side of my head and hard. Shut your mouth, kid. If you wasn't Soda's kid brother, I'd beat the tar out of you. And you know better than talk to Johnny like that. He put his hand on Johnny's shoulder. He didn't mean it, Johnny. I'm sorry, I said miserably. Johnny was my buddy. I was just mad. It's the truth, Johnny said with a bleak grin. I don't care. Shut up talking like that, Two-Bit said fiercely, messing up Johnny's hair. We couldn't get along without you. You just can't shut up. That ain't fair, I cried passionately. It ain't fair that we have all the tough, rough breaks. I didn't know exactly what I meant, but I was thinking about Johnny's father being a drunk and his mother being a selfish slob, and Two-Bit's mother being a barmaid to support him and his kid's sister after father ran out on them, and Daly, wild, cunning Daly, turning into a hoodlum because he'd die if he didn't, and Steve, his hatred for his father coming out in his soft, bitter voice and the violence of his temper. Soda Pop, a dropout so he could get a job and keep me in school, and Derry getting old before his time, trying to run a family and hold on to two jobs and never have any fun, while the Socs had so much spare time and money they jumped us every other for kicks, and beer blasts to the river bottom parties because they didn't know what else to do. Things were rough all over, all right, all over the east side. It just didn't seem right to me. I know, Two-Bit said. It was with a good-natured grin. The chips are always down when it's our turn, but that's the way things are. Like it or lump it. Sherry and Marcia didn't say anything. I guess they didn't know what to say. They had forgotten they were there when the blue Mustang was coming down the street again, more slowly. Well, Sherry said resignedly, they've spotted us. The Mustang came up to a halt beside us, and the two boys in the front seat got out. They were socials, all right. One of them had a white shirt and a Madras ski jacket on. The other had a yellow shirt, wine-colored sweater. I looked as though their clothes and realized for the first time that evening that all I had on was a pair of jeans and Soda's old navy sweatshirt and the sleeves cut short. I swallowed. Two-Bit started to tuck in his shirt tail, but stopped himself in time. He just flipped up his collar on the black leather jacket, and lit a cigarette. The Socias didn't even seem to see us.